Welcome back, boss. So you're maybe starting to think, what is retirement going to look like for me as a business owner? And you're wanting to know how to plan for your business succession. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we're having this conversation because it is never too early to start thinking and planning for this. I'm Amy Walker, small business strategist, and on the Like a Boss playlist, we go over CEO strategies to help you be a better leader for your company. You know the Chinese proverb that the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago and the second best time to plant is today? Planning for succession is kind of like that. You will find that the earlier you start, the better. But no matter where you're at, if you're just like saying, hey, here I am as an entrepreneur, I don't know when I want to retire, but I want to make sure that I have a plan in place for that, great. If you're like, I'm actually wanting to retire soon, what should I do? Great, because the tips that we're going to cover today are going to help you get the highest evaluation out of your company. They're going to help you really create the best sales strategy or transfer strategy, depending on which direction you decide to go. So no matter if this is something that's a long-term goal for you or a short-term goal, you are absolutely in the right place. And I encourage you to stay until the very end because you are going to want to have all of these tips. The first question I want you to answer for yourself is, what is actually the goal? Is the goal to sell the business? Is the goal to pass the business on to somebody else, maybe a family member, maybe you have an employee? Let's talk about those independently because they both have different looking paths. Okay, so the first thing that you're gonna want to know is, what is your company's EBITDA, which I have to look at my screen for this one because it's long. So this is your earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. This is definitely something that you can look up online, and there are some things that will walk you through how to figure out your EBITDA. But this is a really, really important number to know because your valuation of your company is not your current sales times 3. Like, I've heard that before from several different people. Oh, my company sells this much per year, so we're worth 3 times that. That's our valuation. That's what I can sell the company for. That is not actually true. Your EBITDA is what they're going to determine the valuation off of, and then depending on how high your EBITDA is, you'll get like a 1x multiplier, you'll get a 2x multiplier, you'll get a 10x multiplier on that EBITDA number. So the higher the EBITDA, the higher the multiplier. Also, it is a little bit industry specific, so knowing where you're starting from is the first point. Now here's the challenging point. What a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners do is they start to slow down as they inch their way towards retirement. And their sales number goes down, and so then when they get ready to sell the company is not actually worth what they want it to be worth in order to sell it. So that is not what we want to do. We want to set ourselves up for the purchase price that we're looking for. So once you know what your EBITDA is, the second thing I would do is I would set a goal for how much you want to be able to sell your company for. Then find out what you actually have to do in order to get that number. Where would your EBITDA need to be? The next thing we're going to look at is how sellable is our company. So think about the person who buys businesses. A lot of times they're more of an investor, right? Like, if they wanted to build from the ground up, they would be building from the ground up. They have different goals, they have different objectives. And so we want to make sure that our company is not like hugely labor intensive for the business owner, because no investor is going to want to buy a business that they have to work so heavily in. And so we want to look at your workflow. Do you have the right systems and processes? Do you have the right people in place? Are your profits healthy? One of the things that I would consider doing is bringing on a partner a few years before you retire. So bringing in that partner, then that partner can kind of take over some of the work that you've been doing and start to slowly buy in over time, so that by the time you're ready to retire, the business has actually been growing. Because you've got that new partner who's hungry for growth, and then you've got you who are like gradually slowing your way down. Now, the hard part with this is that you have to get out of their way. And you've been that decision maker for such a long time that it is challenging to let somebody else come in and have a say on what's happening and cause the company growth to go faster than what you want it to go. But your whole focus is you're trying to get that EBITDA number up so that when you do the final sale, like you're happy with what you're actually selling your business for. So I want to give you two different scenarios here. I have a client who was an orthodontist and had built up this really great practice, not a big community, but a really big practice within a small community, and was starting to plan for retirement. So when he was at his peak, when he still wanted to be at work every day, still wanted to be seeing the patients, he hired on 2 associate doctors. The reason he hired 2 was because he didn't know either one of them well enough to see which one would be a good person to sell the practice to. He let them work and he let them start, increasing what they were doing to grow the business, found that one of them was really business minded, the other one just like being a service provider. Then he created an agreement with that one to purchase the company. And there was like 5 more years where he was going to be working before he started to slow down. And then there was a certain amount of years where he was going to not be working very much, but still have ownership. And then he would have his final buyout. And so they had these agreements put in place where there was different benchmarks where the partner could get equity in the company based on performance. So that was a really, really good transition. And by the time he retired, his company was worth more than when he had first started thinking about it. That was a great succession plan. Let me give you another example, and this I think is a lot more common. What's more common is you have these entrepreneurs who work their entire lives and they've built this business and they're basically working to be able to pay themselves what they want to earn. So when you have that scenario, what happens is somebody comes in and buys your business for super cheap because it's not really worth a lot. I mean, think about it. Nobody's going to come into a business that relies completely on you and say, oh yeah, this is worth 5 times your effort. If you have no systems, you have no processes, you have no team, that business is not worth very much. So I have another client who is an accountant. And when he came to me, he has this accountancy firm that's worth like a few $1 million a year in revenue, which is bigger than most accountants. And so I asked the question, I was like, so what have you done to grow the business to this point? He's like, oh, I find the guys who are ready to retire that have like a really small practice that's not worth very much, and I just buy it from them. And I was like, that is so smart. It's a very smart strategy. For him to be able to increase his EBITDA, but for the people who are the accountants that had this nice little practice doing, $250,000 a year in business, but their business is not worth hardly anything without them being a part of it. Like they just got a little bit of extra cash before they retired and they were like, okay, well that's good to go. But that's not what I want from you. If you're a business owner and you're trying to sell, I really want you to be able to get the absolute most out of your business that you can, which means we need to create a plan for it. So now let's talk about passing your business on. Most of the time when we're passing our business on and it's not a sale, what's happening is we are passing it on to either a family member or maybe a super loyal team member that we want to run the business for us, and then we maintain equity as the owner, but sometimes we also give some of the ownership away, and it kind of becomes like a retirement plan in and of itself, where you're no longer working actively in the business, but you are still getting paid as a business owner because you have that equity stake. So what are the pros and cons of this? Well, I would say that it's that you're working with family. So I have seen many family businesses, some go really well and some go really wrong. First question you gotta ask is, does your family member actually want to work in the business? Not do they want to own the business, but do they want to work in the business? I have a really good friend who, her husband and his brother, their dad bought a business for them, created equity as an owner, so he was getting paid as an owner, and they were working in the business and they were also part owners. One of them wanted to work in the business, the other one did not want to work in the business, and it created a ton of conflict within the family. And so you've got to be really clear that they actually are there because they want to do the work. The second thing I would look at is, are they a good employee? Like, do they actually increase the value of the company, or do they decrease the value of the company? Do they cause problems? We sometimes as parents want to make things easy for our kids, and we sometimes jump in and rescue, like, oh, Bobby, he doesn't know what he wants to do in his life. You know what? He should run the company. Well, if you wouldn't hire Bobby as an employee, then he should not be, like, if he was not related to you, he should not be in your business. I do have family members working in my business. I will not hire anyone who I would also not fire. And so, like, my mom asked me if she could work for us once, and I was like, sorry, I can't hire you because I couldn't fire you. Now, my children, I could fire them. Like, if they're not doing a good job, it's like, well, you know what? This is not working out. You need to go find another job. You need to work with somebody else, learn some skills, and then you're welcome to come back and reapply. But at this point in time, you're not getting your work done, so you don't get to work for us. That might sound harsh, but in reality, what I'm doing is I'm teaching my children that there is no free ride. There's no free lunch. Like, they have to do the work, and they've got to go out there and learn the skills to be a really great employee. Now, do I have any kids who want to take over my business? At this point, no, but I have one that maybe would someday. We'll see. But first, he wants to go out and he wants to learn his own thing. He wants to get his degree in business, and he wants to build up some things himself. And then maybe when he's got the experience to run this company, maybe he'll come in and we'll have that conversation. But that's a long way down the road. Here's the deal. Family relationships are hard. Business is hard. You bring the two together, and if it was hard to start off with, it's probably just going to be harder later and has a chance that it's going to damage the relationships. So I personally protect family relationships first. Business comes second, which means not that I'm going to bring people into the business and let them damage the business. It means I'm not going to bring anyone into the business that I think is going to damage the business. I'm going to keep that relationship super clean. If these tips are helpful for you, make sure that you hit that like button and then subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you back again. Get the bell notification so you get notified every time we release new content. Okay, my last final tip for you is that if you are looking at your business today and you're like, well, dang, I want to retire in 5 years. My EBITDA is not nearly where I want it to be. What should you do? I would actually recommend that you go out there and you acquire other businesses. So do what my client, the accountant, did and go find other people who are in your same spot that are close to retirement age. They're starting to slow down. Their business isn't worth a lot. You can buy those businesses up for very inexpensive. In many cases, you can do it with little to no personal cash. There's a lot of different creative financing options that you can do. If that is something that you're interested in learning more about, I would recommend just reach out. I can connect you with a business partner of mine who specializes in this, helping businesses grow through acquisition. All right, boss, now you know how to plan for succession in your business. The next video I want you to go watch is how to hire. It's going to teach you how to get great employees or team members on your team, because when you want to get that EBITDA up, you need other people who can do what you do so that it's not totally labor dependent. And that is oftentimes a big important step in getting your business ready to sell or ready to transition. I'll see you over there.